The Klein Tools FastBit Tru-Grip made in Japan bit holder is finally in stock on Amazon. I just checked. Affiliate links are in the description below. Because there's so many very good videos out there already about this bit holder, there's very little left to cover. So I apologize for any redundancy in this content. I believe I've got some original points to make about this. One of the things that I was curious about with this chuck is, how is it fastened into this plastic? I can feel the magnetism all the way back to here. I can't feel the magnet engaging with anything back here. So I don't believe that there's any metal in the back part of this ball. That seems comparable to the Wiha Centrofix. Seems like about the same length on the tang. It looks like at least Project Pine Hills and myself agree that these are the top two contenders. I started working on a video comparing these two. Project Pine Hills got his video out before I did. I was working on it, I didn't finish it. I just never finished that video. I didn't continue with it. Congratulations to Project Pine Hills for completely taking the wind out of my sails on a comparison video between these two. I think I saw Gabriel at my review suggest this one. This one really is not a contender against these two. There's just way too much wobble on this one. That single locking roller pin in there just isn't enough to take out all the play like the 3 locking BBs in the Klein and the 4 locking BBs in the Wiha. So what about the 6 locking BBs in the Matador? 6 locking BBs on every corner in this Matador. Surely this is a contender. The first issue with the Matador is that it's very deep. So here's the E6 detent. Lots of sloppiness there, even wobble side to side. Okay, so what about farther down on the hex? It just doesn't lock on the hex. That's why these are not real contenders against these. These are the top two. Both of these are a no-brainer. This one is getting a little expensive compared to back in the day when I bought mine. This one, especially at $17, is a no-brainer. And like I said, right now on Amazon, it's in stock. Affiliate links are in the description below. In my past videos about the Wiha Centrofix, I was asked about the Leatherman flat bits and whether or not they work in the Wiha Centrofix. And the answer is yes, but you have to get it right. You got to do the trial and error thing to find the position where it locks. It doesn't hold it in every position because the Wiha Centrofix has dual locking BBs on 2 sides, positioned kind of like a V4 engine pointing down at an opposite flat. So yes, it does hold the Leatherman flat bits, but it involves some trial and error to figure out the position where it actually locks in there. So what about Leatherman flat bits in the Klein Tools FastBit Tru-Grip? So it seems at first like the answer is no. They go in too far. What if we try the little trick that a very astute viewer on Project Pine Hills channel suggested, putting a bit in reverse in here and then putting a short bit? No, that trick does not solve the compatibility problem with the flat bits with the Leatherman. However, so what about the Makita bit piece? What about a DIY cutoff? So let's start with the Makita bit piece. And I think many of you are already going to know the answer to this is an absolute fail. This is not going to work. It falls all the way down in there, and you wonder if you're ever going to get the thing back out. So the Makita bit piece is something you are not going to want to use in the Klein Tools FastBit Tru-Grip. What about a 6mm DIY cutoff? That goes in, it doesn't sink in too far. And now we can put those flat Leatherman bits in here in any position, and they lock in any position. DIY cutoff does not fall out. So this DIY cutoff is 6 millimeters end to end, and it happens to be a cutoff of a Japanese bit. What about using this in the IT or electrical technicians area? This HIOS adapter is awesome in here. It's rock solid. So this Vera 898-4 1/4" hex to HIOS is an absolute yes in the FastBit Tru-Grip. What about this WEHA 758 adapter? Okay, that goes in there and it gets sloppy. Let's try the reverse bit trick in here. And that works wonderfully in there. I believe this was just a generic adapter that I got on Amazon. I'll put a link for this in the description. That one actually fits without the reverse bit trick. And it's because it hits this and stops, and then the BBs in this are able to grab on here. So this is also a nice, workable, easy solution where you don't have to have a spare bit in there. And that's what it looks like if you do use the reverse bit trick. Okay. So forgive me if I'm being redundant. I can't remember if the other channels covered the double-ended WEHA bits. Those do not fit in here by themselves. If we try the reverse bit trick, it does not solve the problem of these double-ended WEHA bits. If we go back to the custom 6 millimeter DIY cutoff, then we can use those in here. There's just the tiniest amount of play in there. It's very acceptable. So the WEHA double-ended bits do work with a custom 6 millimeter cutoff. So the other thing that I found is that this Vario blade, which is not 1/4", this is 6 millimeters, so it's about 1/3 of a millimeter smaller. This fits in here, it wobbles a little bit, it's not too bad, but it actually locks in here. They're not keeping it perfectly stable, you know, but in a pinch, if these two things were the only thing you had with you at the time, yeah, they do work. It's not as nice. I don't know who the OEM on this is in Japan. I don't know if it's Vessel. I don't know if it's Annex. It has a lot of similar dimensions to the Vessel handle. I just don't know if it's actually Vessel that's making this. And a viewer, again, I think it was at Project Pine Hills, pointed out this Cobalt QL3 quick load chuck. A viewer over there thought these might be the same. Well, they're not. I don't know if they could be the same patent holder, right? So the Cobalt is similar. It has the same orientation of the locking BBs, but the BBs in this one are really large so that they grip onto these longer 4 millimeter bits, as well as 1/4". The FastBit Tru-Grip doesn't even come close to doing anything like that. So it's a different design from this, but it is similar. The Cobalt is a quick insert. The chuck does come down. It keeps spring tension on those BBs. Same way as the chuck on the Klein. Is it a licensed Instabit patent? I don't know. Yes, it's similar, but it's not the same. I think the only thing good about this whole Cobalt kit is the chuck. All the rest of it I don't like. It's too bulky. I don't like having these bits here, feeling those under my fingers all the time. They kind of want to slide out. It's bulky. I just don't like this. So the other thing I was curious about was who could the OEM be on this Klein Tools blade? I believe that this Klein Tools blade is manufactured in Japan. It's JIS. The Japanese don't make Phillips. They make JIS or Japanese Crosspoint. And I believe this is also manufactured in Japan. I don't know by who. The only clues that I could think of in trying to figure out who might be the OEM is to look at the way that the flat is ground. This is an annex bit, and you can see that it's a wedge. This is a vessel double-ended bit. And if we look at the way that's ground, it's suggesting that maybe Vessel could be the OEM, but it could be another OEM that's just doing the machining the same way. I really don't know, but I wanted to just point out those clues since I've had so long to try to figure out all the different things about this so that my video wasn't completely redundant. which was a big challenge because all the YouTube reviews of this have been very good. Project Pine Hills has absolutely knocked it out of the park. His viewers are awesome. They had awesome ideas. And I've got to give a big shout out to Doc at Last Best Tool also. He was in the same situation I was. The other YouTube channels that I think are probably closer to Klein Tools in Texas, they got theirs first. They got their videos out, and they did a really good job covering this new tool from Klein Tools. That left me and Doc, who got ours later, very little to say about it that wasn't redundant. But Doc noticed that the ratio between this radius and this radius is the golden mean, or the golden ratio. So in other words, this larger radius is 61.8% larger than this radius. 61.8% is the golden ratio expressed as a percentage. And Doc noticed this. I got to say, Doc, that was an amazing display of powers of observation. I just really enjoyed watching your video about this because I realized that you and I were in the same situation. We didn't get our free pre-release Klein Tools FastBit Tru-Grip before everybody else. And so we were left really having to dig through whatever we had to see if it would fit or not fit. Behind here, off screen, I have bits piled up that I have tried in this and in this as a comparison. There are some surprising disappointments with the fitment in this of some of the bits that I have. There were also some pleasant surprises, like the fact that a Vario locks in here. That's pretty interesting. I might do another video that's just a bit fitment marathon. For now, I wanted to get a video out because this is finally in stock. It can finally be purchased. I just couldn't make a video about this and strongly recommend it and then nobody be able to really buy it anywhere. Stay tuned. I may do another video about this, going through all the bits that I have off screen here. I think everybody agrees, if you don't already know, these are the top two. These you should have in your toolkit. If you like that content, please feed the algorithm for me. Stay tuned. You know how YouTube works. And as always, I appreciate any use of my affiliate links, and thank you for watching.